August 2017.
Kathy, it's Bob. Bob Iger. I just read on StarWarsNewsNet.com that you fired Colin Trevorrow. Does anyone keep a job over there? Ryan? Who's Ryan? Oh, the Last Jedi kid? That's true, that movie will make me a ton of money, even if it's controversial. Okay, so I guess we'll have a meeting and listen to some ideas for episode 9 then? I can't wait to hear what these people have for us. If we don't like them, we'll just bring back J.J. Abrams. Sound good? Okay. And Kathy? Sorry I was grumpy. I haven't had my lunch yet.
If you're listening to this broadcast, you're a part of the Resistance.
Welcome back to the Resistance broadcast. My name is John Hoey. Thanks for hanging out with us today. So yeah, our ideas for episode 9 were not picked up. They wound up going with some hotshot upstart named J.J. Abrams, but we are going to pitch our ideas to you instead. So in our discussion this week, each of us will give a 3-minute story pitch for episode 9, and we'll let you decide which you like best. We'll post them to our Twitter account for you to vote on. Joining me today, as always, with their pitches for episode 9, James Bainey, Bill Sheehy, and Lacey Gilleran. What's up?
Man, I'm nervous because I've been working on this all week, but it's just kind of a weird story. I'm not sure. I think it's the best I could come up with, but you know, I'm not a writer. That's what I'm trying to say. And I don't know. We'll see where this goes. I'm anxious to hear your guys' story too.
You know, I just can't wait until I bring back Jar Jar Binks at the end of it, and then Kylo Ren dies, and then Lacey cries.
I swear to God, I'm going to say, if you all kill him, I'm off the podcast.
Oh, well, I've got some changes to not do.
Just kidding. You guys can say whatever you want, but I hate all of you.
Before we do any of that, we need to find out something, and that is whether or not the Force is with us. So, Bill, I have a hunch you may have a few things for us. What do you got this week?
In the words of the late, great Samuel L. Jackson, take a seat. First story today comes from our friend Anthony Bresnikan. Now, Anthony clearly wants to watch the world burn because in a recent piece of his over at EW, he wrote about how Laura Dern revealed that she believes her character is Force sensitive. Holdo Force Ghost, anyone? No, just kidding. But this has caused a mini frenzy among fans about who should and shouldn't be Force sensitive. So, plain and simple. Let's say Holdo is Force sensitive. Is the Force with you, John?
No. It's the whole, to me, it sounds like the whole blue ribbon mentality where everybody gets a trophy and everybody gets to be Force sensitive. And, who is she to say that she's Force sensitive because she talked to Rian Johnson and Ram Bergman, who didn't even know anything about or bring up her actual backstory from the novel when they were filming the movie. So it's a little silly to me, and I don't want to get too dark on it, but a little disingenuous because, like I said, they didn't even incorporate her actual canon backstory while they were creating this thing. So now to go back and say she was Force sensitive, no. You flew a ship at light speed through another ship and you're a hero, and that's enough for me. That'd be enough for me anyway. So, no, Bill, the Force is not with me. No thanks.
James, do you agree with John on this? Is the Force not with you on this?
So my initial thought, and I posted this on Twitter, was that I was not okay with it, and I just thought it felt super shoehorned, like, oh, you get to be Force sensitive, you get to be Force sensitive. But I will say, you read the article, and they're just like, they're using terms that are all over the place. Like, Force sensitive is one of the terms used. Later, they say Force wielder, which clearly is not what's going on. They're not implying that she can move objects with the Force, or that she's someone from the Mortis arc, being she's not Bendu. So they're just kind of throwing around a lot of these terms. And I think when you get to the core of the story is that I think she's just kind of saying there has been times when the Force has kind of revealed to her in a very spiritual way way that she felt it, that she's capable of kind of like understanding that there's something bigger than her in the picture. And if that's the case, then you got to believe that it's not just like a core group of like, 1,000 people in the galaxy. There has to be people that can feel that and understand that and be religious in that sense. So I think it's kind of weird that they chose Holdo, but then again, I guess she's kind of like a hippie or whatever. So I don't know. I guess the Force is with me, but it's still kind of weird.
Yeah.
James wants to watch the world Dern.
Yeah.
There it is.
Anyway,
there's the one dad joke.
You are ready
there
to be a
is.
dad. Like, I can't. You are so ready. Like, well done. Well done. Lacey, is the Force with you on Holdo being Force sensitive or having the Force?
The Force is not with me on this one, and it's
There
not
we
with
go.
Laura Dern either. So, her character, it just doesn't make sense for her to be Force sensitive. Like, how does that play into the story? I don't see it. And for her to have the Force means that now we have two strong female characters in the Star Wars universe that didn't feel the need to use the Force their whole lives until certain, like, small moments. That's just silly, and it downplays the ability for women to have the Force in the Star Wars universe. I hate it. Nope. No thanks.
Gotcha. So I kind of am with James on this. James kind of put my entire thoughts on this in one little package. So I thank him for that. So the Force is not with me, I guess, on it just because, but the reasoning behind it makes sense to me. So let's move on to the next one. So in a recent interview, Mark Hamill talked about one of George Lucas's many different ideas about a sequel trilogy and how he had Luke Skywalker dying in Episode 9. So as we've previously talked about, this caused the internet to take off with misinformation that Lucas had some set plan for a sequel trilogy, when in reality, this was a floating idea among many the creator of Star Wars had. So, even though he is the maker, the creator of all this, at this point, churning out old George Lucas ideas in comparison to the current ideas being used by Lucasfilm is a bad idea and should probably be left in the past. Is the Force with you, James?
I think that sometimes if George puts something out there and somebody wants to go back and take a look at it and go like, this is kind of cool, we could use this, that's always fine, I guess, if they want to do it. But I think to put him on the pedestal of like, yeah, but see, here's the thing though, is we went back and we got what George wanted, or what did George want to do with Episode 7, 8, and 9 and all this other stuff. Yeah, exactly. It's like he had a movie and then somebody else is writing the sequel. So it's like, I think it doesn't matter who you are. Like if some other great director or writer comes in and does a sequel to your movie, it doesn't necessarily mean that the other guy was going to be better or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I'd have to say that the Force is with me on this, and I think we probably should just kind of, leave George in the dust.
Lacey, should we let the past die?
Well, funny you should say that. Why, yes, we definitely should. And I feel like I keep saying this every podcast I'm on. Yeah, George is George, but he's done. He sold his characters and rights to Disney, and I think everybody needs to let that go. Not to mention that everybody hated on the prequels for however many years, and now all of a sudden, because they don't agree with something someone else said, they're like, oh, well, George wouldn't have done that. Are you joking me? George gave us Jar Jar Binks, and George didn't even write the movie that everybody likes, which is Empire Strikes Back. So everybody needs to chill out, and George is just like hanging out in plaid shirts. He doesn't have time to do this, so everybody needs to let that go.
He has had the same plaid shirt since 1977. John, do your thoughts mirror what everybody else has said so far?
The shirt just got a little bigger each year.
Exactly.
Yes, the Force is with me. It's time to leave George in the past for a few reasons. One, all I hear when I hear people come up with this grass is greener from yesteryear thing is like, back when I was your age, a hot dog was a nickel. It was great.
It was great.
It's like
I walked to school both ways uphill.
Backwards.
In the snow.
And it's just like, yeah, George was great, but remember when 19 years ago when he was horrible, according to you, too, and he destroyed what he created? It's like you get so far removed from something and you just want to go back to it after a certain period of time because you don't like what's going on now. And that's an unhealthy way to go about things. And That plus what the media is doing with this stuff. Every time someone brings up George Lucas, it's like Mark Hamill, all he said was one of his ideas that was floating around that he probably drew on a napkin somewhere was that I was going to die in episode 9. And he never had this set plan. He didn't even have a plan for the original trilogy. Like, it's crazy to me that people think he had this whole thing mapped out and there was some sequel trilogy sitting somewhere in a vault that they just threw away. Like, he had shit written on Post-its everywhere. It just gets blown out of proportion, and now you have articles saying, like, Luke would have died at the end of episode 9 if George did it, and then people run with that and then hate more on current Star Wars creators, and it does more bad than good. So I love George Lucas. I love respecting his history, but yes, the Force is with me. It's time to move on from bringing up old George Lucas napkin ideas.
And
did you ever see that video online about how editing saved Star Wars and how the original cut of Star Wars was so bad that no one could sit through it?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to throw that out there for our listeners. Like, the original cut of Star Wars was a hot mess.
Yep.
And that was George's baby. So I'll just leave that. I'll leave it with you.
And he thought it was going to bomb until he heard it with the music, too. So that's another way to look at it.
yeah, I mean, and I think you guys, once again, have nailed it right on the head, because I definitely think that every time when The Force Awakens came out, it was, oh, well, what's George Lucas's episode 7 like? And then with all the controversy behind The Last Jedi, people are like, well, what would have episode 8 by George look like? I think comparing it to George, I think is probably people just eating member berries and just thinking about Star Wars when they were kids. And, hey, remember when George Lucas made Star Wars? Yeah, I remember. So it's just, let the past die.
But those same people hated him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's so annoying to me. Is like
100%
15
right.
years ago,
100% right.
they didn't like him.
Yeah.
I can't pick a side.
Yeah, exactly. 100% with you guys. All right, and our last story today. So, there is yet to be an announcement about that Phantom 2020, a Star Wars story. And many of us here at the Resistance broadcast, except me, feel that the Obi-Wan movie isn't happening anymore. So with that 2020 slot open, what if Lucasfilm is pulling a fast one on us and actually making episodes 9 and 10? So, let's have some fun with this hypothetical and say, if they make an episode 10 for 2020 to follow up episode 9 in 2019 to end the Skywalker saga, is the Force with you, James?
I'm gonna have to go with no. The Force is not with me. I think that trilogy. I know that trilogy is kind of a thing that is like multiple movies have had that, but to me, when I think of trilogy, and maybe that's because I'm in the Star Wars world, it's synonymous with Star Wars. And I think the whole thing has always been 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, and now they're doing 7, 8, and 9. And I think to come in and just say 10 also. Yeah, we weren't capable of really wrapping it up at 9, so we're going to do a 10th one too. I don't know, it looks bad on Disney, it looks bad on Lucasfilm, and I think people would be like, at that point they'd be like, I don't want a 10th movie. You should have wrapped it up. You should have just given us the Obi-Wan movie that we were asking for. And it reflects bad on Lucasfilm. Force is not with me on that.
Lacey, is the Force with you on episode 10 coming in 2020?
I think the Force is not with me for 2020, but I think you'll see a Star Wars saga movie later. And Kathleen Kennedy has even brought it up at meetings, and people have overheard her talking about it, where she's like, oh yeah, we're going to make some more movies down the road. Mm-hmm. So I think you're going to see probably 5 years from now, you'll probably hear rumblings of a new saga movie. I don't think it's the end of the Skywalker saga.
Gotcha. And John, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think we're getting episode 10 in 2020?
Well, your pitch says hypothetical. If they made it, let's have some fun with it. Yeah. So I'm going to say yes, the Force is with me in a hypothetical situation, which is what I guess this is. So the Force would be with me because if you can get another movie to really merge what's going on with all these characters and it makes sense, and you're not rushing too much with episode 9, and you're able to stretch it out over 2 movies and essentially making one big, Godfather 2 3.5 hour epic, then that works for me. So the Force would be with me on a hypothetical episode 10.
Yeah.
Instead of that Obi-Wan movie that's never going to happen.
Well, I think well, let's hypothetically, if we're talking about that, because the Obi-Wan movie is still going to happen, in my heart, no matter what. But I think that in the crazy world we live in, I could see this essentially being like, you know, Infinity War's coming out next month, and then we know that Avengers 4 is basically going to be the continuation of that and is going to be kind of a two-parter. So it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if 9 and 10 became a two-parter, because we've seen that with Harry Potter and the Hunger Games. So, you know, if they do it to Star Wars, I'm not that big a fan of them doing that, but I'm going to be the first one in line, and I think it would be fun to kind of round out the trilogy with that. So the Force is with me on that.
And again, this was a hypothetical, so don't go saying they're not doing it, they're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's all I've got for you guys. John, do you want to start our discussion?
Obi-Wan once thought as you do.
Okay, so James had this idea. I think it was James.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for us to each pitch an idea for episode 9, and hence the beginning of this episode where Bob Iger was having that discussion that we recorded from him and Kathleen Kennedy back in August. That definitely is a real discussion. And we're going to each go around and pitch our idea for what we think will happen in episode 9. We're each going to do about 3 minutes, and then we're going to briefly talk about it, and then we'll post it to you guys, each one, and you could vote on and let us know which of our ideas do you think is the best. So a little fun, little projecting.
God,
and
no pressure.
Yeah. So that's it. Who wants to start their pitch? You're walking into the office, and our listeners are Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger. They're playing that role, and we are the creators trying to sell them on our pitch for episode 9, since Trevorrow got canned and JJ is not in place yet, we'll say. So who wants to start it off?
Bill, you want to go first?
Yeah, you know what? Why not? You know, there's always that the first person that does their group project first always gets a better grade. So
Yeah.
What's this guy's name? Bill Sheehy? Send him in.
Okay.
What's the title?
The Fate of the Jedi.
Ooh, Fate of the Star Wars Episode 9, Fate of the Jedi, or The Fate of the Jedi.
The Fate of the Jedi. Yeah.
The Fate of this. So you went with the triple the.
That's right. I did. It's a name. So here we go. Chaos. The galaxy is again at war after a generation of peace. The Resistance, 5 years after its desperate escape on Crate, with the help and sacrifice of Jedi Master Luke Skywalker, has sparked a rebellion against the devious First Order. Now led by Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, the tyrannical darkside user rules with an iron fist. Each day his power growing, using his Knights of Ren to hunt and destroy the last relics of the Jedi. With little time to reflect, their brave leader, General Leia Organa, has died in a final heroic act defending the galaxy. The Resistance meets on Yavin 4 to lay her to rest. So it basically starts off with Leia's funeral, and the First Order has intel that all of the Resistance will be there. But it's a trap. So the First Order gets there, there are ground troops sent down, and this is where we see Rey, Poe, Finn, and this is where we kind of get a glimpse of Rey's power and how she's grown in the Force. You see all these ground troops coming down, and she just uses the Force, gets them out of the way. So, now that we're there, on Yavin 4, the trap is set for the First Order. And who's on the ship? Who's leading them? Lando Calrissian, the Resistance General, on the fastest cruiser in the galaxy called the Solo. So now you have...
that's cool.
So now you have your big battle over Yavin 4, which is all obviously a homage to Episode 4 and to the original. And you have the added benefit of Hux saying it's a trap. So you have your ties to Return of the Jedi. And this is a definitive win for the Resistance. They have a secret weapon, if you remember from The Force Awakens, the concept art, I think it was called the Battle Hammer. So they use the Battle Hammer and win. And Kylo Ren is furious, and at his base of operations is on Mustafar. And he has his Knights of Ren. And so I figured it'd be cool to have him have an apprentice like Snoke did, since he is kind of this master apprentice. So he has an apprentice named Jax, and he sends Jax on a secret mission to convince Rey he wants to help her restore the Jedi, but really he wants to destroy the Resistance from within. So this leads to a meeting on Octo where we finally see Rey moving into becoming a Jedi, doing that, and she has a meeting with Luke and Jedi Masters Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, and Anakin Skywalker. Through after this, having this little powwow, learning more about the Force, Jax comes to the Resistance. Nobody trusts him. But Jax was actually one of the original students that Luke was talking about at his Jedi Temple. So they train together, they get to know each other. Then this leads to a Return of the Jedi moment where everybody meets up and like, I'll be there too. So Finn is in charge of intelligence and can read First Order transmissions, and this just leads to more battles across the galaxy. The First Order destroys indiscriminately, which reflects Kylo's growth. And this is really going to be like our view of finally like a true war in the Star Wars. It's the war in Star Wars. And so through this Kylo's kind of growth and becoming this dark side master, he's kind of made a couple of arrogant, stupid mistakes, kind of like Hitler did in World War II. And so Hux grows tired of this, turns on Kylo, leads to a final space battle over Mustafar, where the Resistance and First Order go at it. Rey and Jax fight Mustafar and the Knights of Ren. Just when you think that Jax will betray Rey, he doesn't, and instead cuts off Kylo Ren's... This is unorganized, but the final battle takes place on Mustafar's at Vader's castle. Just before, like I said, Jax looks like he's going to betray Rey. Cuts off Ren's hand, and they fall off the ledge together. And so they're fighting on the volcanic surface of Mustafar, while the First Order and the Resistance are going at it. Epic final battle. Darth Maul-like move disorients Ren while they're fighting. And mirrors Revenge of the Sith, where Ren is kind of she sweeps the legs, and finally Kylo Ren burns in the lava but doesn't die, and the Resistance saves the day.
But doesn't die.
But he doesn't die.
He doesn't die.
Yeah.
So that leaves the he becomes Vader. He wanted to be like...
So,
Yeah.
Bill's story is Star Wars, the fan service.
So, no, but I think it's important, though, because, I mean, you gotta, when you're pitching these, you gotta say, like, okay, this is why I did it, because it kind of mirrors what happened in X movie or Y movie. I mean, we're getting that in Force Awakens. We're getting that in Last Jedi. It's just that JJ doesn't pop up every 10 seconds and go, see how it's like connected? It's like...
I'm just joking,
No,
Bill.
yeah.
It was great. That was really thorough, and I feel like an idiot when it's my turn.
Yeah, some of those ideas were rad. The whole, like, I didn't even incorporate in mind Kylo Ren having an apprentice and who was and that sort of thing. So that angle is interesting. I like that angle.
Mm-hmm. And a little foreshadowing, I almost don't even address the Carrie Fisher death. Like, it kind of gets lost in my mix. So for you to say, like, we start the movie with this is really cool, actually. So that makes a lot of sense.
I did that because it's kind of like, I think that's what Princess Leia would want, where it's like, sure, they're kind of using it as bait, but like at the same time, it's a trap for the First Order. And I think that's what she would want, is like, sure, it's this funeral celebrating her life, but at the same time, they're still standing for truth and justice and stuff like that. So, and they're fighting for what Leia fought for.
Sure. All right, man. Who's next?
Well, I know Lacey said she wanted to go last.
Lacey said you wanted to go last. So you want to go next, John, or me?
I don't know, man. Doesn't matter.
All right, you go, John. I'll go next.
All right, I'll go. All right. Okay. All right, my pitch.
What's
So
it
you
called?
out there listening. I'm getting there. All right, so you out there listening, you're Bob Iger and you're Kathleen Kennedy, and you're going to listen to the pitch, all right? The movie's called Star Wars Legacy of the Skywalkers.
Mm-hmm.
3 years have passed since the events of The Last Jedi. The crawl starts with General Leia Organa has died, to mirror the whole Luke Skywalker has vanished thing from TFA. Mm-hmm. And then something like, in the wake of her death grew a rebellion. So she, obviously her passing leads to something. So the rebellion has grown. Many have joined the fight after hearing of Luke Skywalker's legendary story of facing down the First Order. Rey, now being a Jedi Master, is training new Jedi, while a now wiser General Poe Dameron leads the military fleet. Finn, who learned that saving what you love is as important as fighting, has taken a leadership role in the rebellion of the Free Republic systems in the galaxy, and its impact will be felt in the takedown of the First Order planetary controls. General Hux continues investigating Kylo Ren, which he started after TLJ, in a cat-and-mouse game trying to find out what really happened to Snoke that day. He will obey Kylo Ren to his face, but attempt to usurp him by exposing the truth of what really happened. Somehow, Kylo manipulates those who are around Hux into thinking that it was actually Hux who killed Supreme Leader Snoke, and they tear Hux apart. The First Order is still projecting an image of power, boasting that they killed Luke Skywalker, and they've built a massive central military construct on all major planets in the galaxy to keep them in line. They mined to the key planets' cores to place internal, remote-triggered destructive devices in each of the planets in case an uprising occurs. The main control center for these is on Mustafar, a planet that's climate has since cooled and developed a more stable terrain, aside from one spot, which is Darth Vader's castle. Kylo Ren, who is now immersed in full darkness, continually attempts to locate Rey through the Force, but he can't because she shut herself off from him. His focus shifts from power to personal. He heads to Mustafar, his fear is as palpable as his rage, and he goes back to what is comfortable, his adoration for his grandfather as he sees him, Darth Vader. He takes over Vader's castle as it's all he has left, which is ironic because he will suffer in the same solitude as Vader did. Luke visits Rey one more time, and mirroring the Yoda Kenobi thing to Luke from Return of the Jedi, he tells her she needs to confront Kylo Ren. And in the meantime, the rebels find out that the control center for those combustible planet cores is on Mustafar. So they all go together to Mustafar for different reasons. The crew arrives on the stable side of Mustafar, they split up, some go to destroy the control center, and Rey goes to find and face Kylo Ren one last time. Kylo Ren is at the top of Vader's castle. His Knights of Ren have emerged from hiding since he became Supreme Leader. He dispatches them to aid in dealing with the rebels attempting to destroy the planetary core destruction control center. As Rey makes her way up the castle steps, Luke visits Kylo Ren one more time, maybe it's just a voice, like the ghost to Hamlet, and says, "You know she's coming for you, Ben. It's over." He even projects Han Solo's voice into his head, Han screaming, "Ben!" The torment is building inside Kylo's head, and that fuels his fear, his regret, and engulfs him in rage. Sabers ignite, Rey and Kylo Ren battle. It seems as they fight, the area around the castle heats up again, more volatile, more lava, unstable. In an epic fight across the entire top of the castle, it starts falling apart. Rey has Kylo beaten, his saber thrown into the lava below, destroyed. She is face to face with him. They are both holding her lightsaber like he and Han did on the bridge in TFA. As he does this, as he did in the last two movies, Kylo says, "I know what I have to do," and he ignites this saber. Both of their faces are shocked, both showing the blue light from the blade, till we see this time he ignites it into himself. Peace comes across his face as Ben for one final time as his life leaves him. Poe and company destroy the command center. The planets are now stable again and free. They return to their capital base. Many old and new faces are there to greet him. And now the finale. A year or so passes. We see Rey quietly leaving what appears to be a new Jedi temple. A young Jedi calls to her, "Master Skywalker, where are you going?" Rey, never knowing what her last name was, takes on the last name Skywalker in honor of her master Luke. Rey climbs to the top of a peak. It appears to be a place that only she knows of. She looks out to the horizon to see the ghosts of Luke, Yoda, and then Leia and her son Ben. Tears and a smile on Rey's face, the Force theme hits, and in one final shot, we see them, the Skywalkers.
Boo! No, I'm just kidding. No, actually,
That final shot, man, that's... wow. Yeah, I dig that.
Sorry if I went long.
no, it's not too bad. The length that you went. So we definitely kind of knew you were gonna go for the Leia has died. You know, General Leia.
Yep.
General Organa has died, and we also kind of knew that you were gonna do the "I know what I have to do" suicide. You've mentioned that before on the podcast, but a lot of the threads leading up to that were pretty interesting, making a lot of Mustafar like a core planet in this movie.
Yeah, I just felt like it'd be interesting because climate change is such a relevant thing now. What if the planet changed and cooled and really changed its terrain except in that one spot?
I think people want Mustafar, though. I think that's the thing. After seeing Vader's castle in Rogue One, that's like, okay, that would be the perfect place for Kylo to like go and do all that. So I really like, you had the same idea that I did, because I was like, I really want to see that.
So Kylo was redeemed in this story.
He wasn't redeemed. He kind of ended his own tragedy. So I don't see, he didn't do anything good to save anybody. He just ended his pain. So it was almost a selfish act.
Yeah, but he comes back as a Force ghost, though, which is a light side thing.
Yeah, but that's not redeeming. That's just him kind of like he's at peace now, and Kylo Ren's dead. So the spirit of Ben kind of lived on. It's you know what it's called? To me it's a compromise.
Yeah. All right, so all right, guys, I think I'm up next. I
hate that you killed him.
Yeah.
That's why I've been so silent.
Sorry.
I'm in shock.
Listening to your guys' pitch, I think I'm gonna Ryan Johnson this. A little bit.
And depend on who's listening, that can mean so many things.
It's okay. I'm gonna Colin Trevorrow it, so we're all good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Pauly Shore it. No.
All right, so and it's kind of funny because me and John actually used a very similar title. Mine was called Legacy of the Dark.
Ooh.
Right? It goes a little like this. It's been 5 years since the end of The Last Jedi, and during those 5 years, the Resistance remain in hiding. The First Order had a hard time at first integrating themselves into becoming the new galactic government. However, Hux pulled another bag out of the Tarkin Initiative and developed a new weapon to shake their fist at planetary systems that stand in their way. The new weapon will harness the potential energy of the weapons aboard an individual Star Destroyer and then, quote-unquote, wirelessly transfer that energy across the galaxy through a network of ships to funnel it into an individual cannon which each Star Destroyer is equipped with. This way, if firepower is needed across the galaxy, any ship could attain it and send the signal over to it, and then in a matter of minutes, all the energy can be transferred across the galaxy to a separate Star Destroyer on the other side of it. Sitting on the throne, Kylo Ren still anxiously awaits the final destruction of the Resistance. The longer time moves on, he feels Rey go stronger and that the Resistance is tirelessly putting together an opposition. The Knights of Ren are being utilized to search for the Resistance and Rey, which is where we first meet her. On a distant planet in the Outer Rim, Rey uses the Book of the Jedi to find a temple despite their warnings that they heed. As Rey gets closer and enters the temple, she begins the ritual, but stops because of what she feels is not right. Suddenly, Luke Skywalker shows up as a Force ghost. He explains to her that how he too thought he might be able to use that power to bring back his father Anakin Skywalker, much like how she wants to bring back her loved ones as well. He had felt a calling and thought it was his father, but it turned out to be far worse. This is when Luke says, "You don't need me anymore, Rey, but you have bigger problems on your hand," and then he disappears. The Knights of Ren show up and Rey fights them, killing all except one, who steals some of her belongings. And meanwhile, Finn is a general and is reporting to the new leader of the Resistance, Poe Dameron. Poe informs Finn that they are headed now to speak with the Myra people. Once on the planet, Poe states his case to against the First Order and convinces the Myra to facilitate the attack. The lone Knight of Ren returns to Kylo and informs him of Rey's location as well as the information that the Resistance is now on Myra. Hux travels to Myra and Kylo goes to where Rey is. While the Battle of Myra commences, we learned that the Myran people, the species, the aliens, there have individual suits that can swarm in space like insects among the Star Destroyers. Facing off against Rey, Kylo asks about his mother passing. Rey tells Kylo about how she died and how she thought she could bring Leia back from the dead, how she thought she could save them all, Han and Luke. Kylo gets angry over this and begins to fight. He cuts off her hand and then makes his way over to the temple altar. She advises him not to go through with the ritual, but Kylo states that she underestimates the power of the dark. As the ritual begins, Kylo actually resurrects and is embodied by the spirit of Darth Vader, who's like a big Sauron-looking dude. She calls out to Luke for help, but the voice of Luke Skywalker reminds her that she doesn't need that anymore, and she has everything she needs in the Force. Gathering her strength, she fights and kills the doppelganger, which retreats back to the altar and leaves Kylo dying on the ground. Sad moment. Returning to Myra, the people there swarm the ships, and using a device that Rose created, they cause all of the firing power that has accumulated to revert back through the network and forcefully exploding every Star Destroyer in the galaxy all at once. And then happy ending. I probably went a little over. I'm over 4, right?
I think so.
Somewhere in there.
So Myra?
Yeah, I threw that in there because Myra Chunks, Myran people. These are like insect-looking creatures, kind of like Avatar, but a little more buggy. But they're But I was gonna throw in there 1.2 that C-3PO is there to translate for Poe.
Yeah, I liked a lot of the technical like stuff you came up with in terms of
the mega weapon.
Yeah, because it's like, and I try to do that too by like doing planet core explosions, but it's like, you know, people's biggest gripe with the new movies and stuff is they keep regurgitating old weapons and things like that, and you come up with new ideas, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and then I did some Rian Johnson stuff by opening up a little bit of the Force at the end. Like, what does it mean? The Force ghost of Vader? Like, that's not a thing,
Force
but it's
possession?
like the entity. Yeah, it's the legacy of the dark. That's where I'm going with it.
You would piss a lot of people off, man.
Probably, yeah, a little bit. But hey, man, you get like, Vader back in there. And when I was writing it too, there are a lot of moments that mirror things. I just didn't have time to like talk about them because there was so much story there.
Right on.
Wow. So I got it out. What you got, Lacey? You wanted to go last.
Holy shit, guys. Dude, you guys went so detailed. I have like cliff notes.
Well, let's hear them.
Maybe that pitch is what seals the deal, though.
Yeah.
So.
This is going to be my Colin Trevorrow...
Get your popcorn and rock.
Chris Miller kick me out 2 months in.
When I was given my pitch, Bob and Kathy, they were toe tapping. They were kind of looking at their watches. They were saying, "Oh my gosh, I don't even know who these people are. These insect people. Like, just give me the gist of it." And then you walk in and you just dropped this on them.
I love that you have such confidence in me. All right, guys. So mine is called Star Wars: The Brightest Spark.
Ooh.
All right.
Okay, and that's playing off of Poe's comment about how they're going to be the spark that would light the fire to burn the First Order down.
Right on.
Okay, so again, mine's not as descriptive as Bill's or James's or John's, but I'll give you guys like a kind of an overview of where I see the story going. Okay, so when we come back for episode 9, it's been about 6 to 8 months later. The First Order has taken over much of the Middle Rim and core planets. They're tightening their grip on the universe. Leia had died off screen. They don't really go into it, but they kind of live in her honor. Similarly to what they had said they were going to do is where they don't want to focus on Leia. She's kind of out of the story. We're going to meet up with our crew of Finn, Poe, and Rey, where they're trying to intercept a weapons drop-off to the First Order. That's when we finally see Rey light up her saber staff, which we have been waiting to see, that she built off-screen during that 8-month period. She then runs into Kylo Ren again. They have some comments where he's like, "You could have joined me," and she's like, "No, thanks." And then they're going to totally basically take some of the weapons, but then get ambushed so much that they're going to peace out. Meanwhile, because of all the success that they've had with dominating the universe with the Kylo Ren and Hux, Kylo Ren is going to be reigned Emperor of the Universe, and he's going to have a big ceremony on Naboo. However, Hux, behind the scenes, has been running an assassination/mutiny with the tape and or story of Snoke getting killed by Kylo Ren. So then he almost gets killed by a bounty hunter. He then gets severely injured and then runs into Rey and the crew. And the only way that he could survive is to deal with her help. Now, we know from Forces of Destiny and all these other things that Rey is a softie. So she's willing to take him on and try to make things work. And she learns more about him and about everything he went through and et cetera, et cetera. So then they decide to bring down the First Order, and they get into a big battle with Hux and his crew and the Knights of Ren. And then we see Kylo Ren come out onto the battlefield, and he lights his lightsaber, and it's green!
What?
It's green!
Twist.
So the fight ensues, yada, yada, yada. Good guys win. However, the New Republic is not for Ben Solo. because of all the terrible things that he's done. However, he sacrifices himself at the end. Rey starts crying and he goes, look, I gotta do this. So you think that he's died. However, later, we're gonna flash forward a little bit. Rey is on Batuu talking to Finn via transmission, saying, oh yeah, I'm on this journey to find out more about the Force and about Jedi artifacts. And Finn's like, we miss you. And she's like, I know, but I got to do this. And he's like, I know it's hard that Ben died. And she's like, I know, but I'm still figuring it out, whatever. So then she leaves, gets on the Millennium Falcon and goes, are you ready? And she turns and there's motherfucking Ben Solo.
Oh
and he says,
God.
Let's go, scavenger. And then they leave.
Wow.
End scene. Boom, roasted.
Dear Jesus.
At certain times, I'm thinking Lacey's might even be like the most accurate, like saving, they end up together kind of thing. I don't know. I have some weird canon issues with the lightsaber being green and stuff, but I do like the like kind of.
That's my fan service piece.
Yeah,
Everybody has theirs and theirs. That's mine.
I like the middle fight, the middle confrontation that you had at the weapons drop off or whatever. It kind of reminded me of Takadana.
Yeah.
They weren't quite ready to do that final battle, but.
I liked the idea of the rebels not having their stuff together yet. Like, it's been 5 to 8 months later, and they're still kind of, like, getting their things together and trying to get these people from the Outer Rims.
That's when they're their best anyway, when they're trying to, like, scrap it together, like, Like, let's fly these tin cans.
Yeah, I would love for there to be some type of speech at some point in my movie where either Poe or Rey gives a speech and it gets broadcast, and that's when all the other planets join in from the Outer Rims. So then they all join together and battle in the last battle.
I honestly feel like you saving him and him living, I feel as upset about that as you do about me killing him off.
Ben Solo deserves to be happy.
Does he?
I stand by that statement.
Does he? He killed Han Solo.
He
Come
does.
on.
He does.
These are fun pitches, though. I mean, everyone has their own pitch for episode 9, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but at the same time, if Han and Leia were like, if someone went up to Han and Leia later in life and said, look, you're going to have to die, but in the end, Ben Solo will be better and he'll be happy and he'll be in a great life, any parent will say, of course.
then Ben Solo's like in line years later when he's like 45 at a deli, and they're like, are you that dude that blew up the Hosnian system and like all these other planets?
But he didn't do it, though, and he was against it. That's canon. He was against it.
I'm not giving you relish on your hot dog. No, I hear what you're.
All right, so we've given.
Evan would defend me.
Yeah,
Where's Evan at?
Harris Eve.
He will. He actually is going to show up in the next segment where we ask them what they want to do.
Yeah.
So James, I think we're good here, right? We've made our pitches, right? So now, like we said, we're gonna post them online on our Twitter account for you guys to check out.
Yeah, some way or
we
another.
we may do a poll to see which one you guys think is the best, and we'll have some fun with it. But I don't know, James, do you want to introduce the next segment or what?
Well, I mean, basically, all we're gonna do here is we reached out on Twitter to all you guys just to say, like, what do you guys think if they're making episode 9 and you were asked what's one thing you absolutely want to see in the movie, what would that one thing be? What's your one necessary piece of thing that you got to see in this episode 9? And we had a lot of different answers. You want me to go through the answers, or do you want to read them yourself?
Yeah, go.
Yeah, I mean, let's go. Let's run them down here.
All right, we were just talking about Evan. That's at Harris Eve 9. He said that he's hoping for the Knights of Ren to take off their mask and have at least some dialogue. Overall,
ooh, I like
more
that.
of a presence than the Praetorian Guards even, though I love those guys. So his biggest thing is he wants to see more Knights of Ren, and I think that was kind of something that we were expecting in Last Jedi, and it never came to fruition. So I think that's a little bit of that setup and payoff as he's asking.
We keep
for.
hearing about the Knights of Ren, and like they're not there. Like we see them for a second, and he's Kylo Ren. Show us the damn Knights of Ren.
Master of the Knights of Ren.
He wants them to be more than action figures, is what he's saying.
Exactly.
So next up, we got Noah Korth at Noah's _arc2. I see what you did there. His thing is that he says he wants Kylo visiting Vader's castle in Mustafar, and if John,
who said that?
Yeah, if John has anything to say about it, that is his pitch for episode 9 as well. Next up, we got OT Nix at This Is Nix.
Oh my gosh!
So he says, or they say, I don't know if this is male or female. Kylo and Rey become rulers of the galaxy together, like Anakin wanted Padme to do with him before things went seriously wrong. Only this time, the Force is balanced and restored as both become this gray Jedi, quote unquote. He knows it's an unpopular opinion. He puts that in a hashtag. But whatevs, I 100% still love Team Reylo and Team Ray-Ben. So that's OT next.
Somewhere Pablo Hidalgo just cried at Grey Jedi.
Yeah, I'm that person too, man. I'm totally against the wording of Grey Jedi. I don't like it.
And OT Nix, whether you're male, female, whatever you are, I disagree with you vehemently. But thank you so much for submitting your answer.
Go Reylo.
All right, Justin Kalita at JK Tap 26. He says, walking out of the shadows towards Rey, Chewie, and the Falcon. I guess this is a list of things, right? So walking out of the shadows towards Rey, Chewie, and the Falcon.
This is like a direction. Like he's like directing.
Okay, Chewie. Yeah, all right, gotcha. This is a confusing setup here, Justin.
It's like a screenplay. He's like
the asterisk, is like the action of the characters.
All right, so Lando looking at the Falcon after all these years. Well, hello there, beautiful. Chewie howls in delight at his old friend, and Lando says, it's nice to see you too, buddy. Lando looking at Rey. Well, what do we have here? So I didn't mean to do impressions or impersonations, but it ended up happening.
I love James's impression of Lando.
Yeah.
Well, hello there, beautiful.
Well, I'm reading it for the first time. I'm like trying to understand it.
I was unaware that people were so obsessed with Lando.
Yeah, I don't know why people are obsessed with Lando either, but we may find out.
I get it. Donald Glover is like the best thing ever, but I don't know. I don't remember people loving him this much.
I love Lando, but like if he looks at Rey and says that, I'm done. Like I'm like, nope, you don't need to be in this movie. I'm sorry, that's too creepy.
That is because he's 82.
Yeah, he's gonna be in a wheelchair too. I mean, like that's
oh my
that's
God.
not no.
We don't need Lando wearing a Cosby sweater.
What was your old like wheelchair joke?
Well, what have we here? Nothing. I have to go.
It was wheel, wheel, wheel. What do we have here?
Wheel, wheel, wheel.
Yeah, because he's in a wheelchair. I said wheel, wheel. What have we?
He's the wheel deal.
All right.
I didn't think we were gonna bring that one back up. Oh,
all right, Adam Frazier. At Adam Frazier, this is his. He says, over at Geeks of Doom, that's where he comes from. I'd love to see the Knights of Ren and the Unknown Regions. Even more so, I'd love to see a new awesome alien supporting character that has dialogue, gets to do awesome things, and be critical of the story. So a lot of people these days, more Asian Americans, black people, women in Star Wars. This guy wants more aliens as supporting characters. They need jobs too. And
yeah, a lot of people have taken issue with the fact that they haven't brought up species from the original trilogy back into the sequel trilogy, and there's not too many aliens doing things in Star Wars aside from Yoda popping back in.
Well, it's only like the party scenes. So like Maz's castle and like Canto Bight were like the only alien scenes.
Unless you want to call Maz an alien, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's weird though, because I could honestly see it as like somebody's pitching like, hey, what do you think about like, we have like an alien and it's like one of the main characters and they're like, do we really want to do that? Like, we really want to like have our audience like connect and stuff. And it's like, where are you coming from? Did you not see the first Star Wars where one of the main characters was a Wookiee, like who doesn't talk?
Right.
Doesn't say anything, and all the dialogue has to be double because he can't give a line. He has to give a line, and then somebody else has to say what that line was. So it's like, what a weird world. And yet nowadays we're just passing over alien species. Like, they can look human, they can look somewhat human. They can have
they're allowed
face,
they're allowed to be in places of recreation, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So
as Lacey just said,
I'm with you, Adam.
They're in all the bars in the galaxy.
Yep. Drinking and eating porgs.
Yeah. All right, so is that all we got there for that, James?
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there were more, but we're running low on time, and we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah, I got to go back to watching my Blu-ray of The Last Jedi. So,
Woo-wee.
and hoping that J.J. Abrams comes up with a better idea than I did for Episode 9. But let us know. Let us know if you like that segment where we pitch an idea, a question to you guys, the opposite of our Monday show, and get the answers back from you. Let us know what you think of that. It's another way for you to get your voices on the show. So give us your feedback on that. And as always, you guys make the show that much better. So thank you so much. Be sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. And please take 5 seconds to rate us 5 stars on iTunes. And like our videos on YouTube and leave a comment. We will respond. Well, James will usually.
Mm-hmm.
As always, be sure to head to our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, for all of your latest Star Wars news and information. James, where can people find you on the social medias?
Well, on the social medias, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks. But at home, you can find me like just looking at my messages app. It's like it's all blue on one side, and it's just a lot of like, "Hey Bob, did you get my pitch yet? Hey Bob, haven't heard back from you. Hey Bob, I was working on a second draft. Would you like me to send that one over too?" So I don't know. Hopefully I'll hear from Bob and Kathy.
No responses yet.
Not yet, no.
Bill, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Star Wars Bill. You can find me writing from time to time on StarWarsNewsNet.com. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and may the Force be with you.
All right, Bill, you sound a lot deeper than you did Monday, so I'm glad you're feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
And now we'll ask Lacey, where can people find you?
Well, you guys can know. People can find me on Twitter. People can find me on Twitter retweeting pictures of shirtless Kylo Ren at Lacey Gillerin, or just generally talking about Star Wars.
Nice. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and writing and editing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. A fresh new episode will be posted on Monday, where we'll talk about all of Lacey and Bill's coverage and experiences from AwesomeCon. So make sure you are subscribed and locked in, and we'll see you again on Monday right here on the Resistance Broadcast.